The Oklahoma Sooners are getting big respect in national top 25 rankings for the 2025 season.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com today. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire at USA Today Sports. And Jay, the Oklahoma Sooners are a bit of an interesting team this offseason. Coming off of a 6-7 season, they weren't very respected in the way too early top 25s for 2025. But over the last few months, as Oklahoma's made additions to through the transfer portal, and if people have become more familiar with this team, are they getting too much respect now?
I know that's kind of the feeling that we consensus wise, it feels like the feeling that a lot of people have, because a lot of us do not like the idea that Oklahoma is now being paid attention to. We enjoy the underdog story. The underdog story has always done us well, especially because it kind of stifles expectations for fans. So they don't have that feeling of, oh, we expect us to be good. No, we want to feel like we're coming out of nowhere. Well, unfortunately, everybody has actually taken note to, obviously they're listeners of Locked On Sooners, and they understand that, the experts here is trying to tell you who's going to be good. And they are paying attention to the fact that Oklahoma has made some big pickups. The Athletic did their top 25 recently and pointed out some familiar faces, some notable additions, notable deflections, unfortunately. But the big thing that's pointed out is Oklahoma actually made some surprisingly big additions and moves. On the one side of the ball, they desperately needed help and added one or two good pieces on a defense that was already good.
Yeah, so they moved up in Stuart Mandel of the Athletics top 25. Initially, they were coming in at number 25, way too early. In the post-spring way too earlys, number 14. And jumped some pretty good teams, most notably South Carolina, which I thought was surprising because South Carolina seems to be the darling of the offseason so far, and for a good reason. I mean, they went 9-3 last year. We're a couple plays away from really being a playoff team. If a penalty doesn't get called against LSU, they might have knocked off the Tigers and found their way into the postseason. But Lenora Sellers is back, really good quarterback. Shane Beamer has put together a really good roster with a really good defense. So not surprising that they're getting a lot of top 25 love. Just a little bit surprising that Oklahoma jumped South Carolina.
Yeah, because honestly, I would have never expected for South Carolina to, there wasn't much movement there. Like, you still got Sellers, you still got Nick Harbor, you still got Dylan Stewart. Like, there's not much change that's happened at South Carolina to where you would feel like anybody could really jump the Cinderella story that's them. Like I said, they're the media darling. They're the team that a lot of people are really thinking should have. I mean, it was a surprising year last year, and they think they can replicate that because they have so many components coming back. But at the same time, Oklahoma did have a top defense, and then they did nothing but revamp the entire, offensive side of the ball. You bring in a quarterback and a top-tier running back, and then completely refresh your wide receiver room, while the one thing that I constantly see in our comment section everywhere is, well, what about the offensive line, John? Was the offensive line done to make anybody feel comfortable with them? And truth be told, there's enough on the offensive line to make me feel comfortable. Like, it's not like we're walking back out there with an extremely inexperienced line. We're bringing back over 3,000 snaps on the offensive line, and a lot of those were players that played a lot. Then you add in another 1,200 snaps, I think 1,500 snaps that you're bringing in from the transfer portal, and you lost roughly 1,200 that went out on graduation. So, 2,200 snaps are coming in. Now they need to prove themselves and show us that they can play at this level, but you lose 1,300 snaps going out the door from transfers as well as graduates, and mainly graduates, right? Bates left, of course. Gary and Hatchett, he only gave us 51 snaps because he only survived one game before injury took him out for the season. But the rest were kind of seniorish. I mean, Tarquin is probably the one that gave you the most snaps at 569 before he left out. But Fabichi Wewu, 864 snaps, John. Returning. That's huge. Heath Ozida at 630. Logan Hallen at 502. Troy Everett, 523. Sexton, 510. So 8 games, 11, 11, and 13. So you got yourself the experience needed to get better. Plus, those guys now understand what needs to be done to be better in the SEC. I don't see how people believe that the line's going to be worse when this is exactly what you needed, was a whole bunch of young dudes to play.
Yeah, it certainly won't be worse. The question is going to be, will it be better? And I think it will. With Derek Simmons at right tackle, I think it'll be better than what it was last year. With a healthy Jacob Sexton all season long, hopefully, then you're going to be good. You're going to be better. One of the issues that you dealt with last year was inexperience, and now you have a much more experienced line. I think the addition of Eddie Pierre-Louis into the 2 deep to battle with Heath Ozida in fall camp is going to push that position to be a little bit better. With Jake Michaela coming in to push Troy Everett, I think it's going to push that position to be better. But you have to see it. It's a prove-it year for the Oklahoma offensive line. It's not a prove-it year for me, for Bill Beatonbow. I know for some it is, but it's not for me. Last year was last year. This year is a totally different year. You've got some young studs that are emerging in spring and will over the summer as well, and Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje, that could end up playing significant roles on this team as true freshmen. You're recruiting well. Now it's just a matter of developing those guys and getting some health luck. Like, you got to get some injury good luck because they didn't get any of it last year. If you get some health luck, you're going to be better. For Oklahoma, a lot of it's going to come down to what happens on the offensive side of the ball. It's going to be better than last year. There's just no way it's not going to be. And with John Mateer, with Jaden Ott, and really, honestly, I think they're going to figure it out at wide receiver, despite the injuries to Javonte Gibson and Jaden Gibson. I'm not even really counting on Jaden Gibson until he gets that full release, full go, and is out on the field doing stuff. I mean, by the time he comes back, it'll be over a year since fall camp of 2024. But with Deion Burks, Isaiah Satania, Zion Kearney, that trio right there gives me optimism that Oklahoma's pass game is going to be much improved from last year. And a lot of it, again, goes back to John Mateer. You've got a confident quarterback that's able to see the defense, that's able to run an offense, with precision, and that's going to make everything else run a lot more effectively. So the offensive line, I think, will be better because John Mateer is a better quarterback than what we had in an inexperienced Jackson Arnold last year.
Yeah.
And that's going to help the offensive line play more effectively because maybe he's not holding onto the ball as long.
And that's what you want. You want John to feel comfortable getting rid of the ball a lot earlier than, what we've seen with others. But at the same time, it's kind of the entire theme that we've had, John, over the last few weeks as we've been talking about Mateer, and we're seeing the rankings of quarterbacks, and everybody's now watching the tape, and everyone's now evaluating what these teams are going to look like next year, is they recognize that John Mateer is not going to be afraid to rip it. Like, he will rip it, and sometimes to his detriment. And now, with more experience in the system and in building relationships with these receivers, you're going to see that he's going to be more and more confident. I mean, at this point, in 3 years in the system, he should know it in his sleep, similar to Arch Manning over there at Texas. All he's got to do now is show everybody that this offense can possibly be better than what Texas offense is going to be able to put together. And we'll talk about Texas in the third segment, but at the same time, we've got an experienced quarterback. We've got a running back that's put up some numbers, 2,500 in his career, 2,200 over the last 2 years. You've got someone that knows how to find a hole and go. The question still is, of course, line, but you're bringing back a lot of experience. That's going to help.
Right. And again, the defense is going to be so good that you don't need your offense to go be the Baker year, Kyler Murray year, Jalen Hurts year's offense. You've got a defense that's going to be able to play complementary football and help you win games, not just be along for the ride. No disrespect to those guys. I know they were putting out great effort, but it just, anyway, before I digress into a narrative about the Lincoln Riley defenses, Oklahoma is trending for some really encouraging and intriguing defensive prospects in the 2026 recruiting class. We'll discuss them coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play small and win big. How would you like to get $200 in bonus bets and, you leverage that after winning your first $5 bet? Well, you have that opportunity. Like the Oklahoma City Thunder will be playing tonight after they had a massive blowout win against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The expectation of the Wolves should be able to bounce back and keep the game close. Spread is still sitting roughly at the 7.5 point range for Oklahoma City. Can Minnesota cover that one? I'm putting my money back on my Thunder. I can put together a first same game parlay with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Anthony Edwards performances. You can do the same. You can combine all those live prop bets mid-game and add them in to get yourself a nice parlay builder. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there for tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Oklahoma Sooners are trending for a big-time defensive tackle prospect in the 2026 recruiting class. One Brian Harris out of Mandarin High School in Jacksonville, Florida. Got to get that Duval here to Oklahoma. Sorry, I got to say Duval every time just because of The Good Place. I don't know if y'all watched that show, The Good Place, but my man Jason Mendoza is he lives rent free in my head with Duval. But Brian Harris, man, he's going to be committing on May 23rd, so on Friday. And Oklahoma has been trending in this one for a minute, but he's got a ton of big time offers right now on his ledger. South Carolina, Michigan, Alabama, Ole Miss, Colorado, Auburn, West Virginia, Mississippi State, NC State, Maryland, Louisville, Duke, and Penn State are all coming after him. But most recently, Marty Leap, who covers recruiting for Rivals and Penn State, predicted Oklahoma to be the landing spot for Brian Harris.
Yeah, a lot of people love his game. And as you mentioned, he has a beautiful list of offers from a lot of the big programs that are the most important ones to really look at when it comes to trench play. He's built a very good reputation, and I love him at the point of entry. He's pretty violent coming off the line. So I like everything I've seen out of Brian Harris. So he's not someone for me to even be worried about where his rankings are today. He's going to fly up the charts as he goes through training. I mean, remember Trent Wilson, when he committed to Oklahoma, he wasn't the highest at the time, but then he started winning all of these camps and being MVPs on a regular basis. And guess what happened? He moved up in the rankings. And so I think Brian Harris will get a similar treatment. Nice size at 6'4", roughly 300 pounds. I think he's about 300 is what he's got himself listed as. So it's not a player that I feel like is not going to be able to get bigger and stronger. But if he comes in at 6'4", 6'5", and he's already out there, with the size and strength you're looking for. I looked at the picture of him next to Brent Venables, and I know BV's at least 6'2", and he towers BV, right? He gives BV a run for his money. I'm pretty excited to see if the Sooners land him. The defense is definitely going to be on a big time run. I expect more afterwards.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Jaden Jackson recruitment where he was a 3-star prospect. He was visiting Texas, and I was getting excited and getting pumped about the fact that Oklahoma was in on this one, and bummed at the idea that he was trending towards Texas. And people are like, "Oh, it's just a 3-star." Well, here we are.
Freshman All-American.
Brian Harris has some similar traits, just incredibly athletic, incredibly physical, great size as a high school going into his senior year. This dude can play. He can absolutely play. Don't let the star status fool you. He's going to be a big time player at the collegiate level. That's why Michigan, Penn State, Alabama are coming after him. He, according to guys like Parker Thune, Brandon Drum, he wants to play in the SEC. That means for me that Oklahoma has a really good shot here because they're in the SEC now. And this is why that SEC move is so important, because it gives you that recruiting bump. Now it's a matter of just going and winning games in the SEC. But yeah, love Brian Harris, love his game. I think he's got tremendous upside. He plays a lot of defensive end for Mandarin, but he projects as a defensive tackle, a guy that can play that 3 technique that plays between the guard and the tackle, or if they wanted to really bump him up weight wise and get him into that nose tackle range in the 320, 330 range, he could certainly play some nose. He's got good length, good strength. And again, he plays physically. I love his game. Absolutely love his game. The other one that Oklahoma received a prediction for, this one kind of came out of nowhere. This is Matthew Nelson, a currently unrated edge rusher out of Bryant, Arkansas. If that name is familiar to you, that's the place that Ja'Cory Smith is transferring to, Oklahoma's 4-star linebacker commitment from last week. Matthew Nelson, dude, again, a guy that's starting to get a lot of looks from a lot of places across the country. Oklahoma's in early, but was predicted by a couple places, one from Parker Thune of OU Insider, and then one from a Texas recruiting analyst as well.
Yeah, everyone is starting to believe that Oklahoma is finding a lot of diamonds in the rough. This is that Jim Naggie special. This is why you bring in a person like Naggie. They go look for particular traits you can get out of elite play. And at 6'5", 205 for an edge, all you got to do is beef him up. He looks like he has the frame that can handle up to about probably 250. So he'll probably put on at least 45 pounds over the next couple of years, especially being in a training program in Oklahoma. So he has a very good chance of being a nice hit for the Sooners. I like his game. I mean, and as you mentioned, a Texas analyst said, yeah, Oklahoma's probably going to win this recruitment. He is a relentless pursuer. As I'm watching his tape, all he does is nonstop. That motor just keeps going. Mm-hmm. And we've always known Oklahoma and Miguel Chavis liking players like that when you throw them on the field, they're going to keep pursuing. They're not going to pout if they miss the play. They're going to, if they over pursue, they're going to turn around and they're going to keep chasing just in case there's a chance. And when that chance happens, they typically land a nice hit, force a fumble, get a strip, whatever. Always happens whenever you don't stop moving. And he's one of those players that do a lot of relentless pursuit. He keeps going after the play. Violent, good use of hands. I feel like Oklahoma's going to find a lot more players like this. Plus, they're going to get some household names too. Just you wait. The big visit weekends are coming up here in June. So that's when Oklahoma's really going to put all of their eggs in their baskets. They're going to really heavily go after guys when they can get them back in person. But this is another player that it looks like a Naggie special, and with his staff that they're looking for a different type of player.
Yeah, you mentioned the pursuit ability and the motor that he plays with. It reminds me of Ethan Downs. I mean, the intelligence with which he plays, because you can go watch his highlights over on Huddle and you can see that when he's responsible for setting the backside edge, he does it. He puts himself in a position to play the backside if the running back cuts back, and he's right there. And he will stretch the play out. He'll maintain that edge, stretch the play out, allow him and the linebackers to get out into space and make plays. He's very athletic, though. Like, I think he is a really good athlete for his 6'5" size. Sometimes juniors in high school at 6'5", it can be a little bit clunky. He's not. He's very smooth with his movements. I like his play strength, too. There's several times where he's, latching onto offensive linemen because they're thinking maybe it's a run, or he's making sure that he holds up against the run. He's just not blowing by guys. He's two-gapping, being responsible for both the gap on the inside and the outside of the offensive tackle, latches on, and then just pulls the offensive tackle down. Like, just pulls him and runs by him. Like, that's the kind of stuff that you're like, okay, I see you, Matthew Nelson. Let me get some more of that. But as you mentioned, man, if he bulks up, he's able to get, it's going to take a couple years to get him up to where you might want him in the 250 range. But if you can get him to 230 during his true freshman season, over that first offseason. If he's a spring enrollee, I don't know if he plays basketball, if that's going to be part of what his future holds before he gets to college. But if you can bulk him up a little bit as a true freshman and then just keep working, he's going to have a chance, man, to be really, really good. Again, you're looking at length. And that length is important because it helps keep offensive tackles from blocking you. You got those long arms. It's going to give you an advantage over some of these offensive tackles that have shorter arms. And this is the kind of stuff that Jim Nagy's looking for. Draftable traits. And he's got them in spades. So an intriguing prospect. Again, right now, currently unrated, but I imagine that will change.
Yeah.
People will find out more about him. So
yeah, I 100% agree that in some time you're going to find out a lot about this kid. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, we're going to see what happens also in the Cotton Bowl this year. It's going to be a very different story than what happened last year. Let's talk Oklahoma, Texas coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Jay, the Oklahoma Sooners have a lot to prove this season. One of those things is in their rivalry game with the Texas Longhorns. This is a Texas team that's facing a lot of turnover this year, notably at the quarterback position, also along the offensive line and at wide receiver, where they lost Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden. This is a team that is going to be starting Arch Manning for the first time as a full-time starter. Now, he started a couple games against Mississippi State and some no-name team last year, played some snaps against Georgia that didn't necessarily fare well. Big-time talent in Arch Manning, big-time potential, has to go prove it week to week. But this is going to be a big matchup, Jay.
Oh, it's going to be massive. And that's exactly what we all want, was to have a game against, a good game against Texas. Now, granted, I know that a lot of our fans would prefer that Texas always sucks, which, totally understand. It's how a rivalry works. You don't want your rival to be that good. While at the same time, this does nothing but help and look better for Oklahoma's resume. Texas comes in last year, number 3 overall in ESPN's efficiency rating at number 3. Offense was 15th, so the offense was not as great as you would have expected, but still top 15 is massive if you really think about it. And then the top defense in the country. Now, the questions are asked with that: is that a representation of how bad the competition was, or was Texas actually that good? You can decide that one. I'll let you guys make a choice when it comes to that conversation. But I do think that Texas will be a formidable opponent. They bring back a lot of players, a lot of offensive players, and Arch Manning now leading the way. It's going to be a big deal. It's time for him to saddle up and be that dude. And now we just got to wait and see if he can come out there and produce the numbers that Texas need in order to be successful for the year. He's got 3 years into the system. I talked about that with John Mateer, why it's a big thing. I think what gives John Mateer that advantage is that Mateer has had a full season starting and making good and bad decisions. Now we can see if he can continue that trend. But Texas, one thing though, they brought in 11 transfers, only 15 went out. But John, this is what's crazy. They're returning production 103rd right now. We're waiting for, of course, the spring numbers to come, and we'll go right back over this again. But 103 in returning production. Offense, 126th ranked with only 29%, which tells you that it's really just Arch and Wisner. It's really it. Baxter got hurt, remember. I think Jarek Gibson also got hurt at some point. They were dealing with a lot of running back injuries, so they'll be trying to see if they can bounce back. But their defense is bringing back 61% production. So, and they also went and grabbed, 5 interior defensive linemen out of the portal? Like, they answered one of their biggest problems was bringing a whole bunch of young interior defensive linemen. So I guess the question now is, how good will they be?
I think they're going to be good. Will they be national title favorite good all season long? We'll see. The Jack Endries piece at tight end, I think, was a good addition coming over from Cal. That was somebody that I wanted Oklahoma to pursue. The Emmett Mosley addition at wide receiver was a good one as well. The offense, I think, will figure some things out. Kind of like Oklahoma. They don't need their offense to be scoring 40, 50 points a game because the defense is so good. You bring back Colin Simmons, you bring back Anthony Hill Jr., you bring back Ethan Burke. I mean, this is a good defense that's got a lot of experience. Michael Taffy. It's a good experienced defense. That's where I think Texas is going to be winning a lot of games. I think the offense will put up points, but I think the Texas defense is going to be part of what leads this team. And that, second Saturday in October game is going to be a matchup that I think will be one that goes down to the wire. You're not going to see a blowout in this one. You're going to see a tight game. Hopefully it's a blowout in Oklahoma's favor this time, but I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be one of those that comes down to some big plays in the fourth quarter, as it generally does. It's only been, 2 of the last 3 years that some extenuating circumstances has led to Oklahoma getting blown out. But, I think it's going to be a much closer game than people want to give it credit for. I'm not sure what the line is going to be. It's not even released yet, but it's definitely going to be a close one. It's going to be, within a touchdown either way. But yeah, I mean, Texas is good. I just don't know if they're going to be national title contender good. I don't know yet if Arch is going to be everything that everybody expects him to be. Can he be? Yeah. But by that time, we'll see. I mean, that game against Ohio State, the second weekend of the season, is going to tell us a lot about who Arch is. Not everything, because again, it's going to be his first big road start as a college quarterback, and up in the shoe, that's not going to be an easy place to play. And Ohio State is going to have a good defense ready to play against them. For Oklahoma, it comes down to doing the little things right to win a football game. In these kind of games, you can't turn the ball over, and you got to convert on third down, and you're going to have to be able to run the ball. And I think Oklahoma is going to be well set up for that. Texas is going to be replacing a lot along their offensive line. If they get their offensive line figured out and shored up and ready to go into the Cotton Bowl, that's going to make for a great game, because Oklahoma's defensive line versus Texas's offensive line is going to be the matchup to watch. And Sark will have some ways to scheme some things to take the pressure off of Arch, similar to how he did it for Quinn last year. But that's what good offensive coordinators should do. They shouldn't put it all on their quarterback's shoulders to go be playing hero ball. You should make things simple to take advantage of mismatches and things like that. One player that I think we're not getting enough love for or getting enough discussion about nationally is Ryan Wingo. That's one of those guys that I love his game. I hate saying that about any Texas player, but absolutely love his game. I think he's really, really good. I think he's going to be a star. Gives me some CeeDee Lamb vibes just with his size, speed, tackle breaking ability. That's a dude that's going to be a terror down there in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, he's going to be terrifying. And he showed a little bit of it, some flashes last year when we played against him. So you're like, oh gosh, they're going to have, they lucked out and got themselves one of those big wide receivers from that class, like the Jeremiah Smiths of the world, the Ryan Williams, Cam Coleman. Wingo was one of those. And yeah, I'm not going to pretend like he's not going to be good. He's going to be a really good player. And he's one that we have to keep our eyes on. I know Oklahoma's going to have to trail him. Hopefully Gentry's healthy enough to shadow him well and make sure that he doesn't do anything. Or Eli Bowen. Just got to make sure that you don't let him get in open space. And the minute he catches the ball, especially over the middle, you smack him or you watch out for screens, which Sark does a lot of screen plays. He likes to get his guys in open space. And so I'm not going to deny and act like Texas is not going to be a solid team. They've got all the components of it. I think the one major advantage that Texas has over a lot of teams in college football is their transfers are only in a very few spots where they needed to fill holes that they have with lack of experience. They've recruited well in a lot of those spots. They just don't have the bodies that are ready to play at the SEC level. So they went and got dudes out of the portal. Again, they grabbed 5 interior defensive linemen. That's where their weakness is, which can become a strength for them, because I do like Murad Watson from Syracuse. I think he's going to be a really good piece. We were kind of looking at him at one point when the David Stone saga was happening, but their offense, they ain't got no transfers. Their offense is built homegrown. So Sark has done a good job of building that with the players he wants, similar to the way Brent Venables has done on our defense. It's mainly our guys with 2 transfer additions that we sprinkled in because we wanted some additional bodies. And, and then, of course, Dominic Williams right there in the middle. But everybody else, our dudes. That's huge. That's huge for long-term viability and long-term success at the position that you coach. I think that Texas did similar to us. They're building it. They like their players. They just know they need to fill in 1 or 2 spots here or there.
Yeah, you've got to use the transfer portal. You either get
no choice.
You get portaled or you play the portal. And Texas has done a good job at finding some good players in the portal. Again, Emmett Mosley is another one of those. Jack Andrews, I think, good as well.
Yeah,
and
Mosley,
again, they recruit well. So it's just a matter of trusting your recruiting evaluations and trusting the process and the developmental process. The other big matchup here is Oklahoma's offensive line against their defensive front. Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill Jr., obviously a linebacker, but still will rush the passer a lot. He's a good blitzer. He's good off the edge. And then Ethan Burke. That's going to be a lot for Oklahoma's tackles to handle. And that interior is going to be tested as well. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun one. We'll see where I fall later in the spring or in the offseason before we get to our predictions. But I'm feeling good about Oklahoma's chances in this one.
Same.
But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. You can follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can follow me at John9Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, where he's Jay Smith, I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner. Cannot wait for Red River. That needs to happen like tomorrow.
Well, I can't wait for tomorrow when Brian Harris commits. That's going to be amazing.